Here's a psychology fact you're not ready for. Even the smartest, most analytical people can be manipulated without realizing it. You might think intelligence protects you from manipulation, but the truth is it often works against you. Smart people overanalyze. They try to rationalize others' behavior. They avoid conflict. And all of this makes them the perfect target for manipulation techniques like gaslighting. Imagine this. A close friend, a partner, or even a trusted coworker tells you something like, "You're imagining things," or "You're overreacting." At first, it feels harmless. You laugh it off, you shrug, maybe even apologize. But over weeks, months, and sometimes years, those tiny moments accumulate. You start doubting your memory, questioning your judgment, and wondering if something is wrong with you. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how gaslighting works, why it can fool even the smartest people, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself from it. Psychologists call this phenomenon gaslighting, named after the 1944 movie Gaslight, in which a husband manipulates his wife to make her question her reality. In real life, gaslighting doesn't have to be dramatic or obvious. It can be subtle, almost invisible. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where the manipulator systematically undermines your confidence in your perception, memory, and judgment. Their goal isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's to gain control. Sometimes it's to avoid accountability, and sometimes it's simply to get their way. Let's break down some of the common forms of gaslighting. Denial of facts. They claim something never happened, or that you're remembering it wrong. Example, you confront a coworker about them taking credit for your work. They say, "I never said that, you're imagining it." Over time, you start questioning whether your memory is reliable, trivializing your feelings. They make you feel like your emotions are invalid or exaggerated. Example, you're too sensitive, you're dramatic, or you're overreacting. Even smart people start questioning whether they are too emotional or irrational, twisting reality. They reframe events to suit their narrative. Example, "Remember when you yelled at me?" "No, I think you misremembered it. I didn't do anything wrong." Your mind tries to reconcile your memory with their version, creating self-doubt. Isolation. They make you feel alone and unsupported, creating dependency on their perspective. Example, "No one else would ever understand this. You can't trust anyone else but me." The more isolated you feel, the more power they gain over your perception. Gaslighting by proxy. They involve others to reinforce their narrative. Example, they tell mutual friends or coworkers they're just being sensitive, creating social validation for their manipulation. The subtlety is what makes it dangerous. You might not notice it at first because manipulative behavior often comes from someone you trust or care about. Smart people often rationalize the behavior. Maybe they're just stressed, or maybe I really am overreacting. You might think, "I'm intelligent. I would never let someone manipulate me." That's where intelligence can actually make you vulnerable. Here's why smart people fall for gaslighting. Overthinking everything. Smart people analyze every interaction. They look for logic and patterns, trying to understand why someone would act a certain way. Gaslighters exploit this. They create small inconsistencies in reality that make you overanalyze and question yourself even more. Rationalizing manipulative behavior. You try to make sense of the manipulator's actions instead of calling them out. Example, maybe they didn't mean it that way, or maybe I'm just misinterpreting their tone. Over time, this rationalization strengthens the gaslighter's control over your perception. Conflict avoidance. Intelligent people often prefer harmony and try to avoid confrontation. Example, You notice manipulation but stay quiet to avoid drama. This allows the manipulator to continue without resistance. Empathy and emotional intelligence. Smart people often have high empathy. They try to understand others' perspectives. Gaslighters exploit empathy to manipulate you into taking responsibility for their behavior. Belief in their own logic. You think, if I'm logical and rational, I should be able to see through this. Paradoxically, the more you try to reason, the more the gaslighter manipulates your perception. Think about a time you doubted yourself after a conversation with someone you trust. How did it feel? Did you replay it in your mind for hours, trying to figure out if you were wrong? Gaslighting isn't just emotional manipulation. It literally changes the way your brain interprets reality. To understand why it's so effective, even on smart people, we need to break down the psychology behind it. 1. Confirmation. Confirmation bias is your brain's tendency to search for information that matches what you already believe. A gaslighter uses this against you. Example, they tell you, "You always forget things." At first you disagree, but the next time you misplace your keys or forget a small task, your brain says, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I do forget a lot." And slowly, your brain begins scanning your past for any memory that supports their accusation. Even if 99% of your memory is good, your brain hyper-focuses on the 1% you slipped. This is how your confidence begins to break down. 2. Repetition effect. The brain believes information that is repeated often, even if it's false. If someone tells you once, "You're too sensitive," it might not affect you. But when they say it every week, every argument, every misunderstanding, your brain starts accepting it as truth because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity feels like truth. That's why gaslighters repeat phrases like a script. "You're imagining things." "I never said that." "That didn't happen." "You're crazy." "You're dramatic." "You misunderstood." When you hear these enough times, your brain becomes tired of resisting. It's called cognitive fatigue, and it makes your defenses collapse. 3. The fog technique. Survivors of manipulation often describe living in a fog. Not a literal fog, but a mental fog. A fog where you can't trust your own memory. You can't trust your interpretation of events. You can't trust your emotions. You can't trust your gut instinct. You second-guess yourself constantly. This fog is created intentionally. Gaslighters introduce tiny doubts and never allow you to form a clear picture of reality. They keep you confused because confusion makes you easier to control. When your brain is overloaded with doubt, you stop fighting. You stop questioning, and you start depending on the gaslighter's version of reality. 4. Intermittent reinforcement. This is the same psychological principle used in casinos, gambling machines, and addictive apps. Intermittent reinforcement means sometimes they treat you well, sometimes they invalidate you, sometimes they give affection, sometimes they give coldness. Sometimes they praise you. Sometimes they insult you. Sometimes they apologize. Sometimes they deny everything. This emotional unpredictability is addictive, not because you like them hurting you, but because your brain becomes addicted to the moment they stop hurting you. You begin chasing the short moments when they're kind, calm, or affectionate. Gaslighters know this. They will hurt you, then give you a tiny bit of affection, just enough to keep you attached. This is why so many people say, "And I know something is wrong, but I can't leave." It's not weakness, it's psychological conditioning. 5. Social manipulation. Gaslighters don't just manipulate you, they manipulate the people around you. This is called gaslighting by proxy. They might tell other people, "She's emotional. He's paranoid. They're overreacting." You know how they are. When other people believe their version first, you look like the unstable one if you speak up. That's why the smartest victims stay silent. I don't want people to think I'm crazy. No one will believe me. They said everyone knows I'm overreacting. The gaslighter isolates you socially by controlling the narrative. 6. Attack on identity. This is the deepest layer of gaslighting. They don't just attack what you do, they attack who you are. You're forgetful. You're sensitive. You're jealous. You're insecure. You're unstable. You're dramatic. You're weak. You're the problem. These statements stick to your identity like glue, especially when repeated by someone you care about. Even strong people begin to believe it. And once your identity is shaken, you become dependent on them for validation. This is how control is created. Now let's go deeper with real-life examples. These scenarios are based on common patterns seen in psychology and counseling, but simplified so the audience can relate instantly. Scenario 1. The relationship gaslighter. Imagine this. You and your partner get into a small argument. You tell them, "I feel like you didn't listen to me earlier." Instead of understanding, they respond, "You're crazy. That didn't happen. You always make things up. You're imagining things. You need help. You're so dramatic. Everyone knows it." At first, you try to defend yourself. You explain your feelings. You try to stay calm. But each time you bring up an issue, they deny. Eventually, you stop expressing anything. You've learned that speaking up only leads to conflict. Now you're silent. They have full control. This is how victims lose their voice. Scenario 2. The workplace gaslighter. Your coworker steals your idea for a project. You confront them politely. They say, I never heard you say that idea. You must be confused. You always forget meetings. You misunderstood. Then they go to the boss and say, "I think he's having trouble keeping up. He's forgetful." Now 2 people believe the lie. You start doubting yourself. You start apologizing for things that weren't your fault. This is how professional reputations get destroyed by manipulation. Scenario 3. The family gaslighter. Family gaslighting is the hardest to detect because it often starts in childhood. Example, a child says, "I'm upset because you yelled at me." Parent responds, "No, I didn't. You're exaggerating. Stop being dramatic. No one yelled. You're imagining it." Years later, that child becomes an adult who doubts their own emotions because they were trained to. This is how generational gaslighting is passed down. Scenario 4. The friend gaslighter. You tell your friend, "I didn't like what you said earlier." They respond with, "Wow, you're really sensitive. You always take things the wrong way. Everyone knows you get emotional. You need to calm down." Suddenly, you're the one apologizing even though they hurt you. This is how toxic friendships maintain power. Now the audience needs answers. Here are simple, practical, step-by-step ways to break free. 1. Keep a reality journal. Write down what happened, what was said, what you felt, what you remember. This helps you track patterns and confirm your own reality. Over time, the journal becomes proof against the manipulation. 2. Use the gray rock method. This method works when the gaslighter wants emotional reactions. You respond with, "Yes," "No," "Okay," "I understand," "I'll think about it." Short, calm, neutral. You don't react emotionally. This removes their power. 3. Validate yourself. First, before asking anyone's opinion, ask yourself, what did I feel? What did I see? What do I remember? What does my intuition say? Your intuition is not your enemy. It's your compass. 4. Confirm reality with a third person. Not someone connected to the manipulator, someone neutral. Sometimes one honest conversation with a friend can save a person from years of manipulation. 5. Set boundaries. You don't have to argue. You don't have to explain. You can simply say, I'm not discussing this if you invalidate my feelings. That is your version, but it is not mine. I will not continue this conversation. This is emotional self-defense. 6. Rebuild your identity. Gaslighting destroys your sense of self. To rebuild, write your strengths. Write the things you know you're good at. Write how people you trust describe you. Write your accomplishments. Write past moments where your instincts were right. You are relearning who you are without their influence. 7. Seek professional support. Not because you're weak, because you were targeted. A gaslighter attacks your mind. Rebuilding your mind requires support. Therapists describe gaslighting recovery as similar to recovering from trauma. You need space, clarity, and emotional safety. Here's the truth. Gaslighting doesn't happen because you're weak. It happens because you're human. Smart people fall for it. Strong people fall for it. Kind people fall for it. Empathetic people fall for it. The problem was never you. The problem was the manipulation. And now that you understand it, you can break the cycle and reclaim your mind, your reality, and your life. If that helped, subscribe. Human decode to protect your mind.